On your Wednesday episode of Locked On Raptors, it's NBA Draft Day. We take a look for one last time at who the Raptors should be looking at 19 and 31, and we play a little round of draft prediction superlatives. It's all coming up on today's show with Rich Stayman from Locked On NBA Big Board. Thanks for hanging.
You are Locked On Raptors, your daily Toronto Raptors podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hey, what's going on? And welcome to another episode of Locked On Raptors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. It is Wednesday, June the 26th, NBA Draft Day, everybody. Congratulations, we made it. Happy draft day to all those who observe. And I'm, of course, your host, Sean Woodley. I've been covering the Toronto Raptors now for 10 seasons on various platforms. You can follow my work over on the Hell website at Woodley Sean. You can find the show on Instagram at Locked On Raptors. And, of course, you can join us in the Locked On Raptors Discord server. And if you haven't done it yet, today's the day, baby. I'm going to be doing a live voice hangout in the Discord during the draft tonight. Come hang out. It'll be pretty informal, pretty casual. We'll just chat. We'll react. We'll have a good time. We'll weep. We'll cheer. It'll be a great evening in the Discord. Free to join. Link in the description. Come hang out. Of course, you can find the show for free wherever you get your podcasts on the audio side of things. Follow, subscribe, rate, review, tell a friend. Much appreciated when you do that. You can also go to YouTube and subscribe to the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. You'll get a push notification every single time the show premieres or goes live if you hit the little notification bell. So do that while you're there, and you will forever be in my debt. Thank you so much for supporting the show, whichever way you choose to do so. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more as the playoffs wind down. The sports stop sportsing like we want them to. But this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And we will get started welcoming in a man who I cannot believe he had the time to join me the day before the NBA draft, but I sure am thankful for that. It is Rich Stayman from Locked On NBA Big Board, MavsDraft on Twitter, one of our very favorites here on the show. He was on a little while back in the draft cycle to talk about some dudes, and he's here again to talk about some dudes, and we're going to play a fun little superlatives prediction game a little bit later on. We'll talk some raps off the top. Rich Stayman, how are you, buddy?
Hey, it's good to be back. You welcomed me into the Eastern time zone very well, so I appreciate it.
Hey, nothing more thrilling than to be in the same time zone as you, my friend. I'm thrilled you're here. Thrilled to talk about the draft. Can't believe I got you 24 hours before the draft starts, but super happy to have you here. Let's talk Raptors stuff off the top. Of course, we know by now, 19 and 31 are where your Toronto Raptors are going to select, presuming they don't make any trades like I did in the Locked On NBA mock draft, where I traded all of the picks for Mikal Bridges because it's fun to ruin the fake mock draft exercise with dumb theoretical trades. It's a good trade, by the way, but that's for another day. Yesterday being the day. Go listen to that episode with Vivek. Either way, Rich, 19 and 31. 19 feels like the focus today. Obviously, a full day between round 1 and 2. We'll see exactly what's going on. Dan Tolzman, Raptors sort of head of the draft corpse for them over there. He noted that they're probably going to have a pretty busy phone leading up to round number 2. So let's focus on pick 19 for now. I shared my big board last week or earlier this week. I don't know what time is. It's all blending together at this point. Deron Holmes, number 1 on my personal big board for the Raptors at 19. I had, I think number 2 was Khalil Ware. Number 3, Tristan Da Silva. Number 4, Keyshawn George. And number 5, a surprise, Zach Edey. I've totally talked myself into Zach Edey. Where are you at, Rich? Any sort of glaring bad ideas in my top 5 board there? Is there someone else who you kind of fancy as a fit for the Raptors at 19 on the day of the draft, even the draft as we're recording this? What are you kind of thinking and feeling when it comes to the Raptors at number 19? In a pretty interesting part of the draft, we're just ahead of them. A lot of winning or sort of want to be winning teams are on the board between the Sixers, the Magic, the Lakers, the Heat. Like, those are the 4 teams picking before the Raptors. That could have an impact on who's available there. What are you thinking? What are you feeling about 19 here as we get closer to the draft?
Yeah, I think your personal top 5 on that is pretty good. Deron Holmes would probably be at the top of my list too. I'd add Jalen Tyson. I think he would be my highest ranked available player. As a wing that can come in and really contribute. He's from the Dallas area, and I'm from Dallas too. I got to see him a lot in high school, college. The work ethic is there, and I fully buy into him. So I think I'd add him. But I also am there with, I'm not like super high on Edie, but I think he is serviceable.
Mm-hmm.
And ultimately, that efficient at what he did with so much volume, it's not all going to translate 1-to-1. He's not going to be this new age Shaq like he was in college, but he will be a very dominant post threat who I think he can really stretch the floor down the road, probably mid-range jumpers early in his career. I don't think it's going to be anything crazy, but maybe down the road he can be a shooter and he turns into like an ultra stretch big.
I mean, there's a world in which Zach Edey just makes all of us look silly and is like, yeah, I was 7'4" and had great touch. Why did you think I wasn't the best big in this draft? That certainly is, I think, something that could happen. Maybe not the most likely of outcomes, but yeah, I've certainly talked myself into Zach Edey being a dude, whether it's for the Raptors or not. I still don't love the fit in Toronto necessarily with the bigs they already have in-house, but yeah, it feels like he's going to go before the Raptors are on the clock. Anyway, based on all the latest reporting, the Lakers seem to be sort of circling the waters again. Who knows? It's all subterfuge this time of year, but it does feel like he's probably going to go ahead of where the Raptors pick. I'm curious. So because the teams ahead of them are all teams that, in to varying degrees, are teams that want to win, I do wonder if we'll see someone who's a little bit more upsidey, a little bit more swing, like high outcome, low floor type guys, maybe slip through that part of the draft to where the Raptors are at 19. I'm curious, Rich, who do you think is the most likely of the sort of consensus lottery guys to fall all the way to 19? And who among those guys who could be in that situation do you think Raptors fans should be the most eager to potentially see fall to their laps at 19?
Yeah, honestly, I think if Yves Missi is there, yeah, he is one of the higher upside players. And honestly, he has a good floor as a rim runner, too. He's very new to basketball, started in high school. I forgot what sport he was playing before, but he was a multi-sport player, technically, who I want to say was soccer, but don't quote me on that. But he's a multi-sport player, really new to basketball, extremely athletic, just powerful athlete, I would say. My favorite story of him is when I was at the combine, I was right in front of the vertical test. And I'd never seen this in the 2+ years I've been doing this. Technically, it was my third combine. One was virtual, but the second one in person. And he knocked down the vertical machine. Like he hit everything and then the machine just fell down. So powerful athlete. I don't know if that actually means anything. It was still almost a 40-inch vertical. But again, not sure if it actually means anything, but that athleticism is really impressive in a functional way. He can be a pick and roll big. Not going to be a playmaker. He has terrible floor vision, but you can live with that in a big. I think he'd be, honestly, an ideal situation is Toronto. They have a history of developing this kind of player, I feel like.
That's interesting. I've been kind of cooling down on Missi a little bit just because I think the lack of feel is something that doesn't quite jive with what Darko Rajakovic wants to do on offense. Like, I think they want to run a lot of stuff through their bigs at the elbows and things like that. We've seen it with the way they use Jakob Poeltl. I think they want Kelly Olynyk to have a bit of creation burden. And maybe you can survive, Missi not being that type of guy when you have playmaking from your other bigs. So that's an argument the other way. But I think they want a little bit more skill when it comes to their bigs on offense. And so I have kind of softened a little bit on Missi. I'm surprised to hear you say you think he's sort of one of those fall to 19 guys. Do you think he's probably going to go before that, or would you have him in the lottery?
Well, so I think he's a guy who for the longest time I've had in my high teens. Now he's up to 7. Now he fell to 17. So I had a few guys just move in front of him. Right. But for the longest time throughout the year, I had him floating just outside of my top 10. And I do think after the combine, which there was no reason in anything he showed or said for him to have dropped, but I do think he is going to drop a little bit from that point. So for that, I think he's kind of a faller. A different one, if you want a little bit more of a hot take with this one, I think is Jared McCain. I mean, I think Jared McCain, teams are going to have a hard time balancing. ESPN called him the best intangibles, like in their superlatives. They said he had the best intangibles of anybody in the class with work ethic and all that, which is going to win a lot of teams over. But he's a 6'2" with a 6'2" wingspan combo guard. Like there is something there. And I do think though the talent is going to win out and that the size won't matter. But some teams, like the league has a history. Just 4 years ago, 29 draft picks were in front of Desmond Bane, and most of the reason was because of wingspan.
Right. Yeah. Don't remind me. The Desmond Bane thing still a sore spot for.
It hurts
for
more as a Mavs fan. It can't be worse.
I mean, who did the Mavs pass up on? Because the Raptors took Malachi Flynn literally one pick before Desmond Bane. It was a Josh Green thing, right? For the
They
Mavs?
took Josh Green ahead of Maxey, and people wanted Bane. And Bane, the Mavs fumbled the bag on that.
Yeah, that's missing both Maxey and Bane, and Quickly was in there too. That's a tough go. McCain, to me, I feel like McCain's just like guaranteed to go to the Heat at 15. He's just like, it just feels very heaty to get, oh yeah, let's just get this guard. We're kind of light on guards now. Kyle Lowry's at the door. Terry Rozier, we'll see. Jared McCain walks in and he's like starting by year 2 and is very good and has kind of answered all the questions about his game in Miami. That feels inevitable to me. And I hate it, frankly. McCain, not one of my faves. I kind of think I'm over dudes who are 6'3" on the Toronto Raptors. I want bigger dudes than that. So I just kind of have ruled out most of those small guys. But I do want to ask you quickly about Rob Dillingham, who I think could also fall. And I think his like shot creation to me has the highest ceiling of any shot creator in this draft, probably. Just like if it all works out, if the size doesn't come back to bite him, which, hey, he's 165 pounds and like 6'2". It's very likely that the size is going to be the thing that limits him. But in the right situation, I keep on thinking about like Victor Wembanyama being his center and how awesome that would be. But if he falls all the way through that group of teams at 15, 16, 17, 18, and the Raptors are there, Dillingham interests me just because of the skill and the potential talent there. And he can kind of walk in and sort of be like a 6-man for the Raptors behind Emmanuel Quickly. There's not pressure for him to be the lead guard of the future or anything like that. He fell to 21 in our locked in NBA mock draft. I think the size concerns were shared by the hosts who were making the picks there. Thoughts on Dillingham and his chances of falling on draft night?
Yeah, I do like him, but I think teams are going to he's weird, right? Because his offense is ready. It reminds me of how Cam Thomas, like there was never a question the offense would translate up. The question of it was always, would he ever be able to impact winning and can he do anything else? And it's a question mark, but I think Rob Dillingham's not far behind in that regard where he's super creative. I think he might be the most creative player in the entire draft. He has a really good first step, like all the offensive scoring abilities you want from an undersized guard. He checks every box. But I don't think you can really play him year one because, like, if you're trying to win basketball games, because how bad his defense is. Like, he is horrible through screens. When he tries hard, he's not horrible, but that's one-on-one. But against screens, he just has no idea how to play defense right now, and that's going to be a killer. Like you said, if he had Wembanyama behind him, it helps him. But between the defense and who knows what he's interviewing like, because I remember when he was at OTE, the whole narrative around him was just he's immature. And now he's changed. Is it a permanent change? Was it a temporary change? Hard to say. So interviews are going to go a long way. I think that's really going to be what determines if he falls more than the defense.
Yeah, fair enough. And with that, a quick chat about Rob Dillingham. I think we've talked about every player in this draft now over the course of the last couple of months. Of course, we've missed guys, and surely the Raptors will take someone at 19 who I have not talked about yet because they love to do that nonsense. But with that, we're going to move on. I think we've exhausted the options for the Raptors at 19 enough. We're going to play a little game here on the day of the draft and do some predictions, superlative predictions, if you will, coming up here in just 1 second. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at eBay Motors. Passion, drive, and patience, the formula for winning championships, is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors is everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride the first time, every time, or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Back at it here with Rich Stayman from the wonderful Locked In NBA Big Board podcast, MavsDraft, that is, over on the Hell website, where he does lots of wonderful work covering the Mavs, covering the NBA draft, and all of that good stuff. Rich, we're going to play a little game. I have, I think, seven prediction superlatives that I want to throw out there. We're making wild. This is the time for takes. You brought some heat in that first segment. We're going to bring the real heat this time. So I'm going to throw out a superlative, a most likely situation, if you will. And you got to just tell me the prospect who most lines up with that. I will do the same. I'm going to start with one where I dropped this take a little while back. We had Maxwell Bombach from No Ceilings on the show, and I threw this one out there. I said that Jalen Tyson is the most likely player in this class to win a scoring title at some point in his NBA career. I will ask you, who do you think is the most likely player in this class to win a scoring title in his NBA career, Rich?
I mean, it's got to be the guy we just talked about. I think it's Rob Dillingham.
Mm-hmm.
If everything goes right, like he's the most creative scorer, 3-level scorer, can get to the rim, pull up, catch and shoot, play off ball. I think it's him.
Cool. I like that. I said Tyson just because I think the floor has a bigger chance of falling out on Dillingham than it does on Jalen Tyson. And I'm not saying Jalen Tyson is going to go and become like 25 a night scorer or anything like that. I just think his offensive package and his creativity and his craft is pretty interesting and maybe a little bit slept on in the lead up to this draft. I know you're higher on Tyson than a lot of people are. I have him, I've kind of declared my ideal Raptors draft night being Deron Holmes at 19 and Jalen Tyson at 31. Maybe he's not there at 31. It seems like there's a bit of a wide range where he could go. But I just think he's just like an adult who knows how to create with the ball in his hands. And I think that wing creation could be pretty valuable for a team. This is like a top 2% outcome for him, but he's my pick for most likely to win a scoring title. You got Dillingham. Let's go to the next one here. Most likely to be an MVP. I don't think there's any future MVP in this draft class, but that's what makes this question fun. Who do you got most likely to defy the odds and become an MVP of the NBA at some point in their careers from this class?
Man, I don't think there's an MVP in this class. If this player's got to hit, like I had this guy number one for half the process, and I'll just go to him because I thought this. I'll just go with Ron Holland. I don't think he's even that likely. He's the most likely if everybody hits their ceiling, it's him.
Okay. I like that. Let me throw a couple of names by you who I've been kind of ruminating on with this question throughout today. Nikola Topic, if he becomes like a lead guard type, is there enough upside there? The rim scoring, the self-creation, is there enough there, or is he too much of a weak link defensively? Is the athleticism maybe not quite there? Obviously, the injuries is a thing hanging over him right now. Is he a guy who could be the best player from this class and thus a potential future MVP?
No, I thought about him, but I don't know. I feel like he's more likely to be a fringe all-star as his ceiling than just about anything else.
That's fair. I was also thinking, we talked about him a little bit earlier, but what if Zach Edey just is that dude? Like, what if he just ends up becoming the best player from this draft? And at 7'4", with very nice touch around the rim, maybe he improves the passing as he gets into his pro career. The defense holds up. Maybe he's even a positive defender as like just a massive rim deterrent, rim protector. The sort of stories of what he's been doing in workouts in the lead up to the draft, pretty impressive. It sounds like he's just destroying everybody he goes up against from all you hear. Is there a world? I think he might be my pick because I don't think there's an MVP in this draft, but I do think the sort of outlier upside of the largest player in the NBA figuring it out and being incredible, I think it's worth just like putting $1 bet on in this situation. Am I insane for this, for him being my pick in this question?
No, I'd do the $1 bet, but
okay.
I don't think I have two holdups. So one, I don't think a guy who I don't think he's going to play more than 25 minutes for most of his career per game. Sure. He played 32 in college as the most dominant player.
Mm-hmm.
Also, I would say it's tough, man. I don't think his defense I don't think that ceiling is that high. The ceiling's high because he's tall, but for somebody as tall as him, he does not block that many shots. Right. That to me is one of the biggest alarming, like the most alarming, just, I don't know, red flags where I just don't feel like he does enough there. And I 20 something minutes a game, doesn't block that much. Yeah, he'll do well on offense, but I feel like he's just like Boban on steroids. That's a good player because Boban, I think people forget Boban wasn't like always a mascot until like a couple of years ago.
Right.
he actually could play. He played in the playoffs against the Clippers like 20 minutes a game. So I do think that he will be a good player. I think he actually has a safe floor, but I just don't buy that high of upside.
Yeah, I've used the Jonas Valanciunas thing a lot. I know Ivica Zubac, his name comes up a lot as well, sort of in comparison to Edie. Yeah, it's going to take a lot for him to be the best player in this class, no doubt. But, put the dollar bet down. Again, there's not an MVP in this class in all likelihood, so why not have some fun with it? Let's go to the next one here. Most likely to win a Defensive Player of the Year award. That feels a little bit more likely from this group, no?
Yes, that 100% can happen. And this one has actually a lot of candidates. I would say the best defender in this class is Ryan Dunn.
Yep.
But to win Defensive Player of the Year, you have to play real minutes.
Yeah.
Right? Because otherwise, there would have been other Defensive Players of the Year that played 15 to 20 minutes a game. And maybe Matisse Thybulle could have had one, or Jaden McDaniels. Well, McDaniels.
Jonathan Isaac last year, right?
Yes, Isaac. Yeah. That is fantastic. Isaac would have been it. And that is where he loses that argument. And for that, I go with Donovan Clingan. He's the best deterrence in the entire draft. He can block shots. He really holds his own, I think, in isolation compared to guys with his general athleticism. And honestly, I don't think his athleticism worries me that much because he just moves so smoothly, or excuse me, doesn't move not that smooth, but he's so smart and he knows what to do. So I like him.
I like that. I'm curious. Alex Sarr didn't come up there for you. He's someone who I think a month and a half ago when we had you on the show, you said he was kind of your clear number one. Do you still feel that way about Alex Sarr? Yep. And does the defense have that level of potential for you?
Yeah, he's still my number one. It's just that I don't think he has like top any one thing, but he has the most high level blend of talent, right? Where he's 7'1". He's really athletic. He's mobile and he can shoot. That combination as a big, you just don't fail. And I know he's going to be a starter for a very long time. How good of a starter? Unknown. But he's the only player who I feel like there's a clear defined role to be a starter on a playoff team.
Yeah, I like that. And Clingan, I feel like, is the chalk answer for most likely to win Defensive Player of the Year. So I won't go chalk. I will say a little further down the board. I mean, the last time there was a draft this maligned was 2013. And little old Rudy Gobert was selected 27th overall, ended up becoming maybe the greatest defensive player we've ever seen. That feels like a stretch. I can't believe I just said that, but he's on the short list. He's got 4 Defensive Player of the Year awards. There's not much you can argue it as much as Ben Wallace forever. But I'll say let's go Yves Missi. As much as I'm not super keen on the offensive end, I think the rim protection, I think the potential switchability for Missi could make him a pretty otherworldly defensive big if everything breaks right. And so with Clingan off the board, not wanting to be chalk, I will go with him. If guards ever won this award, Devin Carter feels like a decent pick, but guards don't win this award. Yeah,
shout out Marcus Smart for defying the odds.
That's true. I forgot Marcus Smart won that award. He shouldn't have, but hey. We'll come back on the side here, Rich, and get into a few more, not awards related, just a little bit more sort of fun and creative superlative predictions for these NBA draft class. We'll do that coming up in just 1 sec. Today's show is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Look, we all love sports, and in the summertime, things can get a little less heavy on the calendar, but that's okay because as the playoffs wind down and fewer sports are going on, FanDuel lets you keep the sports going whenever you want. All you got to do is open the app and dream up bets anytime you're in the mood, and this summer, FanDuel is hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. There's something for everyone every day, all summer long. Of course, the WNBA season's going strong. You can go throw some money down on the Rookie of the Year race between Caitlin Clark and Angel Reese. That's a ton of fun, as long as you're not listening to people on ESPN talk about it. You can also go and check out the NBA draft tonight. There's still some time. You want to go throw a little money down on Zach Edey being the surprise #1 pick at plus 30,000. Again, just $1. That's not so bad. You can do what I just did in the last segment with Zach Edey. Go check it out. FanDuel has lots of different ways for you to go bet on all the sports that are going on. The Olympics are coming up. The Euros are going on. Copa America. It's all happening. So head over to FanDuel.com/lockedon and make the most out of your summer. FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball and the Locked On Podcast Network. Rounding out our draft prediction superlatives here with Rich Stayman from Locked On NBA Big Board. Everyone go check out Locked On NBA Big Board. Lots of great stuff over there in the lead up to the draft. Rich, Leaf, Raphael, James. It's a great thing. Go support the podcast and, keep it on throughout. You got this podcast. What else are you going to listen to the rest of the day? Locked in NBA Big Board is what? Of course, go check out Locked On Sports Today 24/7 as well, our all-day streaming channel, which will have plenty of NBA draft coverage today and tomorrow as well. You might even see my face there if the Raptors get busy with that 31st pick and cause some ruckus. All right, Rich, let's continue on here. I've got a few more fun little, creative superlative predictions here. Number one, I have most likely to be a 4th, 5th starter type on multiple different championship teams. So your Danny Green, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Robert Horry type guy. Lay one on me here. Who you got?
It's funny. The guy who comes to my head first is the guy who might be going number 1. Okay. And that is Zachary Ricochet. And it's not like you need that kind of guy. Look, I'm not going to go on a whole tangent because the Raptors are not picking number 1. They're not getting Ricochet. But that guy going number 1 is just 2 years ago. There's a whole thing going down to the wire. Will the Magic take Paolo, Chet, or Jabari Smith? For the longest time, it was Jabari Smith. And at the very last minute, the odds makers started saying, okay, whoa, it's going to be Paolo. And I think we see why Paolo and Chet were so clearly above Jabari. I made a mistake. I had Jabari my number 1 because I thought 3-and-D at 6'10", he couldn't fail.
Sure.
But that's not a number 1 player. And Ricochet isn't that. I think he's a fine starter. He is not your franchise-changing player, and he never will be anything, I don't think, close to franchise-changing.
But you think he can be a 4th, 5th starter type?
Right. Yes. Yeah. I should have ended that on a more positive note. I do think he ends up being a winning player. He's just not somebody you're going, all right, we need this guy above everybody else. He'll be a 4th, 5th starter for a while on a lot of teams.
Gotcha. I like that. I'm going to go with, This is tough. Devin Carter is sitting right there. Although I feel like whatever team gets Devin Carter will be like, we need to keep Devin Carter for the rest of time. So he won't be able to go to multiple teams to play and win championships. I kind of want to say Deron Holmes just because I like the 4-5 flexibility and the 3-point shooting he brings. It feels like his style of play is always going to be in vogue. But again, I'm hoping the Raptors take him and have him on the team for the next 15 seasons. So I don't want to speak that one into the world right now. I will say Cody Williams. Wings who can shoot, those guys fit in on teams. Whether he's a star, I have my reservations about the super high-end outcomes for Cody Williams. I don't think he's Jalen Williams or anything like that, his brother. But I do think just being a 6'9" dude who has a little bit of feel for the game, who can theoretically shoot, who can score a little bit, has a bit of handle to him, that's a skill set that's always going to be in style. And I think Cody Williams is the type of guy who appears on lots of very good teams over the course of his career. Let's get to the next one here. This is not a most likely one. It's just guy that we most overthought. Who do you got?
As a draft community, I think Tijon Salon. He has a good chance to be that. I mean, he's so young, he's so big, and he's talented. On a national narrative, I think it's going to be our guy, Deron Holmes. I really like him. I have a lottery grade. I mean, ESPN had him in the 50s until like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And I think they only moved him up because of Intel. So that to me just screams overthinking.
Yeah, 6'9" dude who can kind of do a little everything on offense and protect the rim. And I think I'm higher on his ability to kind of switch out and sort of defend on the perimeter in the NBA, just as it's going to be required of a guy like that. And it seems like he's got a really good work ethic and all that stuff. I think that's a great answer. Although I think the draft Knicks have probably been a little higher on Deron Holmes than I guess the other answer for this one is also Zach Edey, like overthinking the 7'4" dude who's the biggest player in the NBA being a good NBA player. I think that's a pretty decent one here as well. And maybe Ron Holland, right? Like, I think the shooting is a real problem, but he's also a pretty incredible athlete, and pretty incredible athletes who are wings often have success in the NBA. Sometimes they're Stanley Johnson, but sometimes they're not. And if Ron Holland falls, if he has like a Cam Whitmore style drop, I think that could end up being the one where it's like, oh yeah, what was the overthinking going on there? Last one I have for you, most likely to be considered the steal of the second round of the draft. Rich, who you got here?
I love the second round. That is the part that is my absolute favorite. I think
you know you're a true draft head when you say something like that.
I have to leave right as soon as the draft is over on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
And I hate that it's 2 nights because of that.
Mm.
But I am very excited to geek out on Thursday afternoon. So I cannot wait. I think if I had to choose one player, man, it's tough. I've got my highest rated consensus second round player is Jalen Bridges. I have him 21, but I don't think he's that star that would fit that mold.
He's more your 4th, 5th starter guy on a bunch of different pretty good teams.
Yep. If you're going for, man, I might have to go Dylan Jones. He's probably going to scale into a role player, but he's going to be a really good role player at the minimum. He did everything. Like if you're into advanced stats, he had 30% rebound percentage, defensive rebounding, 30% assist percentage. He's the only player ever to do that. So that is really impressive. He can shoot, I think, better than his percentages say. Just how will he scale up to the NBA from the big sky? It's really tough to say. And I just feel like he's got it. He's going to stick in the NBA.
I'm hitching my wagon to Isaiah Crawford, who I did a podcast about pretty recently. I know he's on the older end of things, but 6'6", really long wingspan, good defender. Like, to me, that's another one of those guys who, if it all breaks right, could be on a lot of very good teams as a nice contributor. So he's there for me as the second round steal guy. I also think, too, I mean, you hear a lot about Juan Nunez and his like immense talent and also immense possibility for crashing and burning. There's that.
I'm pretty low on him personally.
Hey, that's totally fair. But you hear about him enough to sort of put him in there. I'd also say like KJ Simpson, just like a really good adult point guard. Like maybe he becomes like the 20th best starting point guard in the NBA as a second round pick or something like that. Is that enough to be considered the steal of the second round? I don't really know. But yeah, that's one too. I guess everyone loves Jonathan Mogbo too. I'm kind of
he can't shoot. He doesn't separate, and he's 6'9". And the analytics are nice though.
They are very nice and like super big athlete and all that stuff. But yeah, he's not super high on my list of potential guys I would be ruining the Raptors not taking in round 2. But that feels like a pretty good way to leave this one, Rich. Thank you so much for taking the time just before the draft. You are an absolute wonderful human being for taking the time out at what is a very, very busy time to talk to my ass. So thank you. Anything you want to promote for the good people out there?
Hey, subscribe to the Substack. That's where all my stuff is done. It's MavsDraft.substack.com. Appreciate you having me.
Hell yeah, man. Everyone go and check out all of Rich's great stuff. You can find me at Woodley Sean, of course, on the Hell website. You can find the show at Locked On Raptors on Instagram. You can join us in the Discord for our live hangout tonight as we watch the draft react. Just, we're going to crack wise, do all that good stuff. Would love to see you in there, hear you in there, I suppose. It's an audio app, not a video thing. Thankfully for me, I do enough video and people see enough of my face. Either way, enjoy the rest of the lead up to the draft. Enjoy all the subterfuge in the next little while here. I'll be back likely after the first round of the draft to react to whoever they've taken. May even get a second podcast in there depending on what the Raptors do or do not do ahead of round 2. So just kind of keep an eye out. That's why you got to subscribe to the Locked On Raptors YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode because there could be surprise episodes here during the week. That is the NBA draft and free agency. It's all going nut, and we will be here to talk about it on the podcast. Thank you so much for supporting the show. We'll be back again on Thursday with a reaction to whatever happens in the first round of the draft. In the meantime, thanks so much for hanging. Bye-bye.